Hi everyone and welcome to the channel. Now today's video is going to be something a little bit different. As you can see, I'm sat at my keyboard and mouse at my desk from my main computer, and this is where I do my day job from. Just over there is the little workbench that you normally see in these videos where I film them, and just behind me is my retro desk. That's where I keep a couple of daily use retro computers out to play on. Now all this is in my sort of little office here at home, and there isn't much storage space in here, so the majority of my retro gear is all stored in the loft or attic, whatever you want to call it, that's up there directly above this office. Now fortunately I've got an injury in my right arm and I can't get up and down the ladder into the loft or carry any of the kit down that I want to show you in these upcoming videos, so that's a bit annoying really. So what I've been doing is doing some research for videos that are going to be coming up on the channel, and I've come across something that we're going to take a look at that I hope you'll find interesting. So I've been on the Wayback Machine doing some research looking for prices of old computer hardware from about the 2002 to 2003 sort of time period. And I was on the website of a small independent type computer retailer, and in fact it's the website of one of the main shops where I used to buy a lot of my computer hardware from back then. And if we load it up, we get this. This is the website of Discount Computer Supplies as it was captured back in April 2003. As I say, these were a very sort of small, independent, family-run type of business. As I say, computer supplies. They were the absolute opposite end of the scale to a lot of the sort of big box, type shops. Your PC Worlds, your Micro Centres, or whatever stores you've got where you are. These were the other end. These were what I guess an American would call a mom and pop type shop. And I think these sort of shops have a certain charm, for want of a better word, to them that the big box stores just sort of don't capture. They're more that kind of soulless corporate sort of image. I mean, just looking at the website, for example, this is a fantastic little sort of snapshot of the sort of early-ish internet. The two buttons where you can that take you to links to download either Internet Explorer or Netscape Navigator, and the little line underneath telling you what screen resolution you should be running at to view the website properly. It's all a far cry from how websites are built now, but it's fantastic nonetheless. So if we have a look on Google Maps Street View and we set the capture date to 2009, or June 2009 in this case, this is what the shop looked like back then. Now it was right on the sort of very edge of the town centre of a town, now city, called Doncaster, which is in South Yorkshire here in the UK. And it was one of the kind of nearby-ish towns close to where I grew up. And it just so happened that out of all the towns, Doncaster was the easiest one for me to either drive to or get public transport to. So that's the place I went for some of my computer parts, and this was the shop in Doncaster that did them. So I ended up shopping here from sort of mid to late 90s to the kind of 2005, I think it was, when I moved away from the area. Now, I've not been back since, but if we move this capture on to September 2017, we can see that it looks like the shop's gone at this point. All the signage is gone. There's a big new shutter over the front. Some scrotes dumped some rubbish outside the front of it for God knows what reason. And yeah, I can't find any trace of the company, from this kind of point forward. So sadly, it looks like this is just yet another independent shop that's kind of disappeared from the high street. So if we go back to the DCS website, if we look on the left here, it says download our price list, and thankfully the Wayback Machine has captured that download. Now in order to view it, it says you need this Microsoft Access Snapshot Viewer, which I always thought was a little bit weird that you needed this kind of access viewer in order to look at the price list. I'm guessing that they used Microsoft Access as the kind of database for, say, their stock or inventory management or something like that. and they just spat a portion of that out for the price list that you need the viewer to view, rather than spend time turning it into an Excel file or a Word file or a PDF or whatever. But anyway, I'm going to print that price list out and we'll take a look at it. And here is that price list. Printed it out. Thought it was just a bit more interesting to take a look at, sort of a physical thing rather than just me talking about a screen most of the time. All 22 pages of it here. I've only printed single-sided to make it easy for the video, but I do remember in the shop they had loads of these things laying about. Thankfully printed double-sided if I remember, but computer prices would change pretty quickly. They must have got through so much paper just printing these things out all the time. Anyway, quick look at the front. So you've got a lot of light on stuff. I don't know if they're still going, but it's certainly a name that I remember. It was a company that these guys seemed to shift a lot of their stock. I don't know if they had some sort of deal with them or whatever, but a lot of light on stuff. Trust, I think we'll probably see a lot of Trust sort of stuff in here as well. But look at that, 17-inch diffusion monitor, £82.50. Be a CRT from this time period surely, but 82 quid for a CRT, that's not bad. It's not going to be the greatest monitor obviously at that price, but Samsung hard drives, etc, etc. We're not going to have a look at all of it, we'll just have a quick flick through. We'll pick out a couple of the most interesting bits to have a talk about. So let's crack on, and straight away I can say I need to zoom in a little bit. 1 second. Right, zoomed in a bit. Hopefully this is all coming through nice and clear on the video. Right, let's have a look. Accessories, blah blah blah, add on some motherboards. Antivirus software. I don't remember these guys, they were a hardware shop. They weren't a software sort of shop. They did sell a little bit of software, things like antivirus software, for example. All McAfee and Norton stuff, so perhaps less said about those the better. And then AT and ATX cases without power supplies. So what we got? We've got some Cooler Master. Obviously a name that's still well known these days. They weren't always the best with the descriptions. You didn't really necessarily pick up a lot by these. I suppose you've only got the sort of one line to do them, but it did make it a little bit hard sometimes to know exactly what this case was, or what it looked like, or something like that. Wow, look at that one there, 270 quid for a Cooler Master ATC 410. That's not a model that rings a bell for me. I had a quick look at a sort of one of those inflation calculators going back from April 2002 to now, and for here in the UK it's pretty much doubled since then, so that would be 540 quid in today's money. Flipping heck, that is a lot of money to be paying for a case, even these days, and without a power supply. Okay, quick Google image search, since I've got no memory of that particular case, but it looks like a bit of a big aluminium beast. I've certainly never seen one of these. I don't know if you guys have. But wow, the equivalent of 540 quid for a case. That is pushing it a bit. And then below that we've got Q-Tech. Looking at these sort of the 30 to 40 pound bracket, this is perhaps the more budget end of the market. And then Thermaltake, another well-known name, still going as far as I know. Look at that, the Zazer and the Zazer 2 as it were. Now, they were pretty iconic looking cases. I never had one, a couple of my friends had those cases. I always thought they looked pretty cool. And then just to sort of finish this first page, back onto ATX cases. Names, with PSUs this time. So A-Open, Chief Tech, well-known names, still knocking about today. More Chief Tech, E-Star Benz Nokia style case. No, that one doesn't ring a bell. But then again, if it's 33 quid with a PSU, definitely serving more the sort of value end of the market than the high end. So In Win, yeah, full file server case with dual 300 watt redundant PSUs. How many people were buying one of those? Yeah, more budgety sort of cases. Q-Tech again, like we saw before, and then Tsunami. That name rings a bell. Are they still going today? Not sure, but yeah, so again, 29, 30 quid, a bit more of a sort of budget type case. And then let's jump down to ATX motherboards for the Athlon. So going to be a lot of socket A boards here. I mean, I can see things like KT400, not 400, KT333 chipsets. Yeah, KT400. Might be some Enforce chipsets in here. And again, a lot of familiar names. You know, we've got Gigabyte here, MSI, obviously both still making boards today. Chain Tech, I can't remember which video it was now, but I've definitely shown a Chain Tech motherboard here on the channel. Yeah, that one there, 7AJA2. That would have come from this shop. That board. That's one that I've had be going on 20 years now. DFI as well. God, it'd be nice if they were still around doing their sort of LAN party series of boards. So yeah, I guess looking at that on the motherboard front, not a huge amount change there. On the next page, we've got the Intel equivalent. So we've got one board that's just Celerons, but hey, it only costs 42 quid. Socket 478 for the P4s. Same types of people at Gigabyte, MSI. Not sure who Mercury were. Saw those in the AMD section as well. I don't remember ever using a Mercury board and no idea what happened to them. Looking at the prices, again, seem to be more at the sort of budget end of the market than the higher end. What's this RIM memory on this top Gigabyte board? Oh, that was, what do you call it? Rambus, wasn't it? Rambus inline memory modules. That was the Intel backed, I think it was. This was the new kind of memory architecture that was going to take over from, you know, from DDR RAM. I mean, obviously that never took off. Wasn't that the one where you had to have all your memory slots filled, even if they didn't have actual RAM in? I think you had to put dummies in, like your empty slots or something, because of the way that they were sort of electrically connected. And if it didn't, you know, it wouldn't work. I think I've got that right. I never used any Rambus memory, and as I say, obviously never took off. But I just remember it kind of being expensive, and everybody's kind of shrugging their shoulders, going, "Well, what's the point of it?" But yeah, it was a bit like that sort of ill-fated BTX case type initiative. Do you remember that BTX format where they were sort of flipping the case over so the motherboard kind of mounted to the other side, and it kind of made everything a little bit topsy-turvy? It was a good idea, I think. So we're trying to get sort of better airflow through the case. But again, it was at that time where people were starting to sort of experiment with moving components surrounding cases anyway. You know, power supplies, well, mounted in the bottom instead of at the top, and, you know, vice versa. And just never really took off. Perhaps the sort of wrong idea at the wrong time. Load of blank CDs down here. Verbatim, you know, Ricoh, etc., TDK, very familiar names. These Freecom ones, these were the ones that I used to buy. I mean, there's a pack of 10 in slimline dual cases, so it's £3.25. So what's that? 32.5 pence per disc. In fact, I've still got those original discs. I mean, just off the shelf, there's my original Freecom, totally legitimate backup of Rise of Nations. And even to this day, I've not had a single one of these Freecom discs fail. I mean, I know people always kind of go, "Oh, what about, you know, bit rot and you should reburn your CDs and whatnot." Has anybody ever experienced that? You know, it's not like I've stored those things in any kind of particularly special way. They've spent most of life just sat on a shelf. But yeah, other than sort of physically scratching them, they've never let me down, though. So nice to see something like that from all those years ago, just, you know, still working. Got some blank DVDs as well here on the next page. Never really took off, I don't think, as much DVD writing, but we were starting to get USB sticks, memory cards coming down in price at that time. Even theirs, the media's a little bit more expensive. Just looking at this first one, £14.25 for 10. So what's that? £1.40. I guess given that they hold so much more data than a CD, not an especially bad deal. But if one of them didn't burn correctly, then you're throwing a lot more money away in one go. Then we've got a load of cables, USB cables, hard disk cables, floppy disk cables, yada yada yada. Webcams, familiar names here: Genius, Logitech, Trust. Load of Trust stuff. As I said, this was one of the brands that DCS carried a lot of. Case lighting kits. We've got all cold cathodes here, no LEDs whatsoever. No doubt bought quite a few of those over time. CD writing software. Did anybody ever actually buy this? Because it feels like every single CD writer that I bought, everything had a copy of Nero come with it. CD writers, a lot of familiar names again. LG, Samsung, Sony, Plex Store, obviously very highly regarded. And these drives, we get into that point where these drives are becoming really, pretty cheap. You're talking sort of £40 to £50 here. So even though the CD-ROM drives themselves were down to about sort of £15 to £20, if you were building a PC, I guess you'd be on a really tight budget not to push that extra bit and stick a writer or rewriter in there compared to just a CD-ROM drive. Likewise, DVD drives, same sorts of names again as CD drives as you'd expect. The drives themselves, sort of £30, £35. I think that's why, certainly from my recollection anyway, there are a lot of systems where you'd have two drives in there and you'd have your DVD drive just as a straight reader and your CD writer / rewriter as a sort of second drive in there. Different story, of course, when you get to DVD writers and rewriters. We're talking £180 upwards, so what's that, £360 in today's money. I can see why, certainly at this point, we're not putting many DVD writers in builds. I certainly didn't have one until a fair bit later on. But as we just touched upon, USB sticks and flash memory was getting that cheap that I guess it kind of robbed the market or robbed some of the market anyway for these things before they got cheap enough to be more, I guess, commodity items, for want of a better word. Fans and heat sinks, not a lot under this column. As I said, this was not the sort of shop for your hardcore overclocker. A lot of these are kind of lower budget, sort of sensibly priced aftermarket type heat sinks, particularly because these guys sold a lot of OEM type CPUs. That's not the right word, is it? Where you buy just the CPU rather than the whole thing in the box with the cooler and everything. So you'd look at this section and you'd go, oh great, cooler for my Athlon, £5, whatever. Moving on, we have got graphics cards. God, look at all the different names. You've got Chaintech making graphics cards, 3D Connect, can't remember those, Elsa, Creative, Gigabyte, Matrox, MSI, PowerColor, PNY, Sparkle, a lot of Sparkle. They were kind of a bit of a budget brand. Don't remember what happened to them. Presumably got bought up or bought out by somebody else, but yeah, just look at the variance in manufacturers that you just don't see nowadays. Not as many companies making graphics cards. A lot of GeForce 4 type cards, the GeForce 4 MX. We've got some of those, a couple of, thought I saw a TI 4200, there's one there's a TI 4800, a little bit higher up. On the ATI side, we've got a 9700 Pro, so £256, so that'd be near as damn it 500 in today's money. Still sounds cheap, that, compared to some current graphics card prices. NVIDIA FX 5800 Ultra, £355, flipping heck. It does say something when even the absolute kind of cutting edge cards back then are only the equivalent of sort of, what's that, an absolute push, £700 today. And I mean, what's a 4090 is, at the time of this? Well, I don't know, £1,400, something like that. I don't know, because I've never looked at it, because there ain't no way in hell I'm buying one. But when you look at the majority of these cards, they're falling in that kind of £25, £30, £40 type budget. Go out there today and find a new budget graphics card for the equivalent of, let's say, £80 that performs as well as these things did compared to the, the kind of cutting edge cards at the time. I don't think you're going to find that. It just shows how sort of crazy the graphics card market's got in these last few releases. IDE hard drives, yeah, again, familiar sort of names, Western Digital, Samsung, etc. Just looking at capacities, sort of 40 gig, 80 gig, 120 gig, sort of typical size hard drives for the day. And then look here, just two of them, hard drives, Serial 80A, some Seagate Barracudas, there's a name we still hear about. So yeah, just starting to creep in there in April 2003, getting ready to sort of sound the death knell for the IDE discs. Keyboards and mice, and then just keyboards down here, same sorts of names, Microsoft, Logitech, Trust. It's a keyboard and mouse, not a lot to say about it. Right, memory, a lot of Kingston stuff on this page. What we're kind of looking, a lot of 128 meg, 256 meg, PC 100, PC 133. There we go, look at that, 512 megs of DDR400, 113 quid. Same thing for DDR333, just 74 quid. So the DDR400 stuff, that must have been pretty recent to market at the time of making this, at the time this price list was released. Still got some 72 pin memory as well. 16 meg, 32 meg, nice to see that still hanging on. And then a big section, memory for smart cards, compact flash, etc. Capacities, sort of, I can see a couple of 256 meg ones there. So yeah, as we touched on earlier, these were things that were really starting to take off. Capacity was shooting up, and I guess that's part of what killed off the CDs and the DVD drives. The modems, there's still got quite a big selection of modems here. I mean, early to mid 2003, broadband was well underway on its rollout, but there must have been plenty of people still sort of sticking to modems. For them to be carrying this many, and they're incredibly cheap. Some of these at this point, particularly these software modem type devices, less than £10. Some of these. I mean, I remember getting my first broadband connection, and it was like 10 times faster than what you could get over dial-up. So, yeah. I mean, it wasn't obviously as cheap as dial-up to begin with, so yeah, there must have been plenty of people still holding out on those things. Monitors, there's that £82.50 17-inch CRT, 0.27 dot pitch, 120 1280 by 1024 at 60 Hz. Be all right that for a cheap, monitor. Just notice how sort of small a section the CRT bit is now, and the LCD/TFT section's already, well, at least that long, plus whatever's on the next page. But yeah, 15-inch CRT, 72 quid, 17-inch one, £82.50 we said, and then even things like the Iyama one, 19-inch monitor, only 185 quid. And then you're looking at the TFTs. Even a 15-inch one, which probably didn't have the best specs in the world, more than that at 204 quid. But yeah, prices on some of these things is a 18-inch Iyama one, so it's about the same size viewable screen as that Iyama 19-inch CRT, lower resolution, and it's coming in at £1,100, so call that 2,200 in today's money. It's a heck of a lot. Just think how big a screen that'd buy you these days. A bit of stuff on networking, operating systems. 70 quid for the OEM version of XP Home, 116 for professional, 120 for Windows 2000. Still selling copies of 98 and ME too, 76 and 85 respectively for the OEM versions of those. And then PC mice using balls. There's a fair old selection using balls. A lot of Trust stuff, Microsoft stuff, and basic wheel mouse and wheel mouse retail box, etc. Genius, I think I had one of their keyboards at some point. Yeah, the little scrolly wheel type mice. And then an equally big section for PC mice using optical sensor, that sort of newfangled thing. Same sorts of names, Genius, Logitech, Microsoft, etc. Where's an IntelliMouse Explorer? That must be in here. Oh yeah, there we go. IntelliMouse Explorer V3. Still got a few of those. 33 quid, yeah. About the price I remember those things being. What the heck is a Harry Potter optical mouse? Logo glows and mouse moved in gift box. 10 quid. But it were worth every penny. Processors, the P4s and the Celerons. We've got P4s ranging from 2.4 gig up to 3.06 gigs, which is 148 quid to 515 respectively. Yeah, what to say about the early P4s? They were long pipelines and they ran pretty hot. And then the few Celerons at the top for the more budget end of the market. And then for the AMD equivalents, we've got the AMD Durons from 1100 to 1300 megahertz. I mean, even the top one, £31. I mean, that's pretty cheap for a CPU. I mean, yes, it's getting a bit long in the tooth at this point. But if you're just building a sort of simple PC for someone that just wants to do a bit of web browsing or whatever, you can't go far wrong at that. And even the cheapest Athlon, the 1800 plus, the XP 1800 plus, so that's £61. So again, double it, £122 in this, in the present day. That's still not a terrible price for a CPU. And then these Athlons, they go all the way up to the XP 3000 plus at £558. So that'd be the 166 megahertz bus version. Some of the old style Pentium 3 type Celerons, sort of perhaps more of a direct comparison to those Durons we've just looked at, sort of £40 up to £61. And getting down to sound cards, that is a depressingly small selection of sound cards, especially compared to the sort of variety that used to be in the sound card market before this. I mean, I was as guilty of this as anyone, but as more motherboards got built-in sound and that sound was good enough, it was just one of those things that I never really put money into. I'd have rather have saved myself the money and put it towards the graphics card or the CPU or whatever. I mean, it's a lot of creative stuff, a bit of Hercules, so we're talking all Digi2s and Hercules Digifire and whatnot. Doesn't really ring a lot of... Oh, the Game Theatre XP, that one rings a bell. Just glanced for a second there and thought, tablets? I don't remember them selling tablets, and of course I realised it's drawing tablets, isn't it? Not what we think of a tablet as these days. And then our last page. Not a lot to look at on here. What we got? Interesting that they call this a miniature hard drive when these first ones, it then calls it a USB stick. That'd be interesting to look at that. Is that actually a USB stick, or is that just some kind of weird name? Whereas these Twinmos ones, these actually, those are actual hard drives. The fact that these Freecon ones say waterproof makes me think that's just a USB stick. Which, is that a mini hard drive? I don't know. Anyway, that's semantics. And that is the end of the price list. So there it is. That was our quick look at this old 2003 DCS price list. I mean, if you saw any hardware in here as we were going through it that you had, or that you bought, that you wanted, let me know down in the comments. As I say, whilst I didn't buy a lot of hardware from here for my own computer, I certainly bought a lot for computers that I were building for other people. And I don't know, it's a little sad really to see these sort of independent shops disappear or disappearing. I guess, the big box type stores and the internet, the rise of internet shopping over the years, it just, I guess, killed the market for these guys. There just wasn't, there just must not have been this footfall to sustain them. And don't get me wrong, I'm as guilty as anyone of just nipping on the internet to buy something rather than going out to these places. And the one or two sort of smaller independent shops that do exist, a lot of them have had to sort of diversify into other areas just to survive, and you don't tend to get that same sort of experience going into a small independent PC shop nowadays, or shop that also does PC parts, compared to what you used to get. And yeah, it's an absolute shame to see places like this disappear. And likewise, just going through this, it really highlighted to me the sheer sort of choice and number of manufacturers that there were. And don't get me wrong, this was not an exhaustive list by any means. There's be plenty of other manufacturers that DCS in this case wouldn't have dealt with and didn't carry their products. But yeah, just like on those motherboards, on those graphics cards, etc., so many manufacturers that we don't have anymore these days. And yeah, there have been some new players enter the game, but I don't think we've got the same amount of them or the same level of choice that we used to have. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe that's just the nostalgia talking, but yeah, that's the way it feels to me. But that's going to be it for now. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's been something a little bit different while I sort of get my right shoulder better. Hopefully normal service will be resumed on the channel soon. If you did enjoy it, usual thing, just drop us a thumbs up or a comment down below, anything like that. But for now, I'm just going to say thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye. Oh, losing my voice with all that talking.